People who work in HR, what's the wildest thing you've discovered that led to a firing in the course of your career? Story 1. We had an employee who would clock in at the time clock every day and then go home. They'd come back to clock out for lunch and back in after an hour, then come back at the end of the day. It was impressive how long it took a manager to catch on. Story 2. So, I used to work at a software company, and we kept getting complaints about a nap room being cluttered and trash from the nearby break room being left around in the mornings. So we asked security to do some late evening walkbys to see what was going on. One evening, they found a young Asian woman hiding in the nap room. She didn't work there, and she didn't speak English. It was super weird. It turns out one of the software engineers who worked in the building had purchased a mail-order bride. But here's the kicker. He was already married. So, unable to bring his new mail-order bride home, he kept her at the office. No idea where she hid during the day, but at night she made good use of our little nap room. Gotta feel bad for that poor woman. Story 3. We had a very nice HR lady who absolutely spoiled one of the employees in a wholesome way. He was a young immigrant boy who desperately needed a job, about 15 years old. So she'd go out of her way to give him rides, encourage management to give him raises, and even made him homemade meals. She eventually found out he was stealing all of their customers' credit card information and running them all out dry, which is why we had been receiving so many criminal reports regarding our company. Not only this, but he would flat out steal their purses and wallets while they were there. I'm talking hundreds of thousands mysteriously missing from our customers in a matter of a few months. It absolutely broke her heart when she had to fire him and report him to the police. He was immediately arrested for a large number of crimes and deported. Story 4. Long time ago, I was an IT contractor working for a large company. There was probably about 20 of us on this one team that were all contracted by an IT staffing firm. It came to light that one of my colleagues had been previously fired as a high school teacher for a scam where he would go to his student's place of employment, Target, Best Buy, etc., and steal a bunch of stuff in exchange for giving them good grades. When this happened, it was revealed that the IT consulting firm had not run background checks on any of us. The company we were working for called us into an office and said that they needed to do background checks on all of us, and if there was anything to disclose, now was the time. No one said a word. In the next 2 weeks, one guy was let go because he had done time for mail fraud, another guy for assaulting his ex, another guy for getting kicked out of the military for attacking a senior officer, and another guy who was a former police officer who it turned out was under indictment for allegedly inappropriately touching a young girl in his squad car. That was an interesting month. Story 5. Car dealership. Co-owner of the company had a used car lot he had registered under a friend's name. The big dealership would take in used cars. He'd pay a technician off the books to give it a bad inspection so the car would go to auction. He'd use the other company to purchase the cars for dirt cheap and sell the cars at a huge profit margin. Essentially got our KBB rep fired because she was evaluating trade-ins as being in good condition, but the inspections would all come back bad. So in the company's eyes, she was terrible at her job and paying people way too much for their trade-ins. They started to catch on when they realized close to 40% of all the trade-ins were getting poor inspections. So they implemented a system where 2 technicians each did their own inspections. Suddenly, not so many cars were getting poor inspections. Then it all unraveled when they looked into it deeper and realized every single bad inspection came from one technician. In total, they estimated roughly $400K in profit had been stolen from the company over the past couple years. It was pretty messy. Story 6. I have 2. The first was a guy who kept watching inappropriate adult videos on his work computer, which was partially in view of other people. He was warned to never do it again. He was an excellent employee, but that is a fireable offense. He did it again. They mounted a camera behind his desk and told him they were going to monitor him from now on. He did it again. They had no choice but to fire him. The second one was when one day somebody looked for something in a new guy's, a couple of months, desk drawer. They found hundreds of little pieces of paper, each with an offense detailing when somebody made him angry. Some of them made it clear the notes were instead of hurting people. Story 7. Previous HR manager was all right. Smart, friendly with everyone, good people skills. He was even an adjunct professor during my last year in college, taught behavior modification and abnormal psychology. Then his wife divorced him for beating her. He went off the proverbial cliff. Started calling young, attractive girls from the lab to his office over the intercom. Told them he was obsessed with them and offered them all expense-paid trips to nearby music festivals. Promised them free drugs, whatever they wanted. They all turned him down. One girl received a decent settlement. He was immediately fired when they found out, of course. He has spent the last few years trolling around our college town, trying to bang anything that would give him the time of day. It's outwardly obvious he is on hard drugs. Multiple stalking, assault, domestic violence charges. Banned from 24 local businesses. Absolutely unhireable anywhere serious ever again. Story 8. Years ago, I was covering as both HR and LP manager for a district in a now defunct retail chain. The stores carried a variety of adult magazines, which are also now all defunct. Overstock for these lucrative and quick-selling products were in a storeroom. There was a very small, for the time, camera in the room. One day, I was reviewing footage at a store and was idly watching an ASST. Manager restock after closing. Then something odd happened. He was taking one copy of each adult magazine, opening it to a photo spread, and laying it down on the floor. Soon, there was about 15 magazines spread out. He left for a moment, and then returned in view of the cam completely naked. Then he laid down on the magazines and started rolling around and, well, you can guess what happened next. I met with him the next day and said, "I need to let you know there's a camera in the magazine storage area." He stood up, said, "Okay then," and walked out of the store. I ended up putting him our system as resigned and didn't dispute his unemployment claim when he filed. I went ahead and told the next person who took over the restocking job that a camera was there before he even touched a single magazine. Story 9. My wife is in HR. She recently had to handle the firing of an employee because a federal background check revealed that he was some kind of local drug kingpin with an active court case. What's insane is that he was also working this low-wage service industry job. Story 10. My friend worked IT support for a hospital. They would have the ability to remote desktop into employees' laptops, even without authentication from the user, but was only supposed to be done under special circumstances. He had an urgent ticket which required a remote login, but the doctor was completely unreachable, so he ended up just connecting to the laptop. Turns out the doctor was watching adult videos at that very moment, and he immediately logged out, hoping nothing would come of it. Apparently, the doctor reported the situation, landing them both in trouble. Story 11. A guy got caught smoking gas in the bathroom. He only got fired because he had it on premises. If he would have said, "I'm taking a quick break," or just disappeared to his car for 2 minutes, took a few hits, and came back inside, he would have been fine. Was there for approximately 20 years up to that point. Story 12. This dude used to work 2 other remote jobs from his cubicle, and he also has an Etsy business. True entrepreneur, he was. Someone replied, "There's a classic story of a dude who hired out his own job to India, paid them a fraction of his salary, did nothing at work, and it took years to discover." Story 13. I heard a story of a guy using an unmarked company car to run Uber Eats and DoorDash all day. He got away with it for a couple years. He finally got caught because he was using his work phone for Uber, and his data was astronomically higher than anyone else in the company. If he had just used his personal phone, he probably could still be going. Story 14. When I worked for the federal government, One of our senior managers was dating 2 women that were his contractors. They lost the contract to a competitor. Not wanting to lose his harem, he demanded the new company hire them. They said LOL, no. He canceled their contract in retaliation. They sued and the truth came out. Our CIO demanded he quit. He said he was a disabled vet and she couldn't fire him. He literally told her to go F herself. He ended up just moved. Not fired. Not demoted. They just moved him out of IT. He still works there. Story 15. It came to my attention, after a few times, that a woman would stay in a restroom stall and take all the toilet paper off the rolls by just unraveling it, and she was seen putting what she had rolled up and put it in her locker a few times. She claimed she was too poor for women's hygiene products, so she was told that they are provided, and there was no need for her to use that much toilet paper for that. Hoped that was the end of it, it started again, and she claimed this time it was for wounds, and she couldn't afford gauze and wound dressings. Okay, so we just told her again she could use what was in the first aid kits. Management wanted to be gentle. So it starts up again, and she confessed she just liked stealing things, and this was easy. She was terminated after that one. Story 16. One of the salespeople has printed their new offer of employment from a direct competitor from a company laptop on a company printer and forgot it there. She was not the sharpest tool in the shed. All of her stuff got immediately locked, and she had also tried to download the whole client database and sent it as attachment from her work email to her private one. All this happened in one day. Story 17. My experience, I have seen a lot of wild stuff, but people in HR were the wildest. HR generalist was pregnant. The father was one of the people on the production floor, but she didn't know which one. Fist fights broke out among all the potential fathers. HR VP was fired after a paid conference he attended was actually just a free vacation for him and his family, and he didn't even go to the same city as the conference HR director was having an affair with IT director, both married. When they were confronted, they both denied it, so they were both fired. I saw them 7 years later on a plane coming back from Europe, still together. Story 18, not HR but IT who involved HR. If you want to sell your homemade adult videos, at least use your personal email instead of your work email to do those dealings. Story 19. Not HR, but my coworker went to work for a competitor and never quit her job with us. She traveled for work and was able to work both jobs for months. Lasted until a customer mentioned he heard she left our company and asked who his account rep would be. Story 20. Guy was banging prostitutes and dealing drugs on night shift. Guy admitted to everything. We found out because he had to give someone else his work phone, and a pimp kept leaving messages demanding money. Final story. My dad was working as HR in the construction industry. The story that stands out the most, they had a guy take a shit in another fella's backpack. That concludes today's stories. If you like stories like these, please make sure to like and subscribe for more. If you have any opinions on these stories, let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you all enjoyed today's story time, and I hope to hear from you all soon.